Day 8 of consistent content. And if you're a parent, you might want to watch this. If you've been following me, you know that I'm a parent. I have 4 children. With my wife, I have 3, and they're all young. The 3 that are with me are 7. One is about to be 6, and the other one is 3. We have our hands full, and it's always a loud house and a very active place because all they have is just a lot of energy. And my wife and I, we like to talk about the things that we go through with our kids, especially at night when they go to sleep. It's peaceful, it's quiet. And most times before we go to bed, we end up talking about how the day went, what we experienced with each child, some of the things that we were able to observe of each child. And most times it's all good stuff, things that we laugh about, some serious things, behavioral stuff, emotional regulation stuff. But most of it is a testament to our own healing as individuals, meaning my wife and I, because we grew up in a different type of household of different types of parenting styles. We both have individual trauma that we both went through, some more severe than others. But either way, it has definitely impacted the way we raise our children because we are now aware enough to see those behaviors and we don't act like what our parents did to us. I'm not saying that it's easy or that sometimes we don't feel that we want to react in those ways, but for the most part, we are aware when we get to that point. And I think we've healed a lot within ourselves to be mindful of what we say, how we react, even the things that we don't say, because our kids pick up everything from nonverbal language to just the look or the energy that we give off. Like they pick up on all of that stuff. So for us to be in this position where every single moment is almost like a assignment from the universe to show us like what did you learn from your own childhood that you're not going to repeat to your own children, and it's like a constant test. But it's easier when we both are on the same level, and both my wife and I, we check each other all the time. She'll tell me things that I should be mindful of and vice versa, because when you get to that point where it's just so loud and you're trying to concentrate or you're trying to do stuff and they're fighting, I mean, you understand as a parent, it just gets very hectic. And if you don't have that emotional regulation or awareness, you can just snap and you can say things that are very hurtful. Your energy can come off very tense, and then your kids are going to pick up on that. You don't even have to say anything. They can just already tell by your energy, by your aura. And then, depending on how they feel, they're going to react. For us, we try to be very mindful. We try to be very aware. And what helps, like I mentioned before, is, we have these nightly talks about things that happened. And most of it's very funny. Most of it is very enlightening because we see all these different behaviors of each of our children, and they all have their unique set of behaviors. They all have their unique way of processing. They all have their unique personality traits, and it's so special. We're so grateful because we get to see all of that in real time because we want to be aware and we want to always be better for ourselves, for our children. They feel safe expressing themselves and telling us how they feel. Like, I would never be able to do that, ever. Like, I would have gotten beat just by looking at him different, my father. But he had his own style of parenting, and luckily, I've stopped that cycle so that my kids don't have to experience that, but I had to make the choice, and luckily I did. And now, when I get to the point where I might be a bit irritated or, get to that point where I'm gonna yell, I make sure to actively stop myself, make sure to understand how I'm feeling within my body and what the thoughts are going through my head. And at the end of the day, I ask myself, like, do I want to react to my child who's just still developing, who probably doesn't know any better, right? They're only 3, 5, and 7 years old, right? I think as parents, we tend to just overthink and try to understand that they should know better when they don't. It's been quite the journey so far, and every moment is an exciting and amazing moment, the good and the bad. But overall, I think as parents, it's important for us to be more aware and to be able to see beyond the tantrums, see beyond the yelling and screaming, right? Even though sometimes it makes your brain shake, it's important to see beyond that because most times our children just need us to be there. They just need us to keep them safe and they just need to feel like they can act however they are and we're not going to stop loving them. So that's what I think is most important to them in their perspective. Now, I never received that. I never experienced that as a child. I was always in fear and survival. I had to unlearn a lot of things. And luckily, like I mentioned, I decided to do that. And now my kids are getting the best of me as a father. It's important to do the work of healing, not just for yourself, but for your kids. And before I end this video, I just wanted to talk about this meme that my wife brought up to me. And it's the funniest thing ever. And like and comment if you can relate to this, but she read me this meme on social media of a mother who was, I think, getting her child ready in the car. And the text said, I've said sorry to my child more times this morning than I ever gotten from my own parents in my whole life, right? And we both laughed at that because we both can understand that. I can honestly say that my parents have never apologized to me in my whole life. I've never heard them say, I'm sorry for anything. And I don't think my wife has ever heard her parents say that either. But I can relate to that post because now that I'm a parent, I say sorry all the time to my kids. And it used to be difficult for me just to even apologize because I had that same mindset. I had that same behavior. My parents' lack of apologizing made me the same way. I would never admit that I was wrong. It was hard for me to apologize, and it would get me into a lot of trouble. And I didn't know how to regulate my emotions, so it would just come out as anger. But now I say it almost every day. Things that happen, even things that I don't realize happen, but one of my children say, "Oh, you did this to me, daddy," and I say, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I wasn't aware." It's just a whole different style now, and it's just interesting to see and compare between the two. If this resonated with you, comment below. I'd love to know your perspective and how you've handled it when you were a kid. And if you're a parent and have children yourself, let me know how you handle it with your children. Because we're all just learning. No one's a perfect parent. I'm still trying to be the best parent, and I'm still trying to constantly learn to be better. But I can honestly say that I'm definitely way different from how my parents were to me. And I think that's most important because I feel in myself that I'm doing a good job. So that is it for day 8. I will see you on day 9.